autistic person, one of my biggest struggles has always been socializing with people. I've always struggled to make friends, and meeting potential romantic partners has been something that in the past it was a struggle for me. And I wanted to tell the story of my previous relationship that I was in towards the end of college, first part of the time that I was out of college, and how it was a relationship that wasn't very fulfilling. And in hindsight, me and this person just weren't a good match for each other. But I wanted to stay in the relationship because I felt desperate. I felt like there was nothing else out there for me. I felt like it was either this or be single for the rest of my life, because I knew that I've always struggled with social interaction. I knew that it would have been hard for me to find anyone else. So I thought I was forced to settle for this. So I thought I would tell this entire story just to see, if anyone is, has ever experienced anything similar, and so they don't feel alone. Just start by talking about my dating history. I mean, currently I am on my third relationship, hopefully my last relationship. But that just kind of tells you that I haven't dated a whole lot in my entire life, because it's always been hard for me to meet people. Like, I feel like most people my age, they've had a lot more relationships and dating experience. It's just because I'm socially awkward. I'm a very shy person. I'm terrible at small talk. So it's just hard for me. It's hard for me as it is to make friends, much less meet a potential romantic partner, right? So I've always struggled with it, but I'll just kind of briefly go through my dating history. Like, my first relationship was in high school, and it lasted about 4 months. So I was 16, 17 when we dated. And then my second relationship is this relationship that I'm going to be talking about in this video. And that relationship took place when I was 21, 22. So from 17 to 21, I didn't date at all. It wasn't because I was intentionally choosing not to date. It was just because it was very hard for me to date. I honestly didn't even know where to go to meet somebody. So that just kind of tells you the struggles that I've always had with just like meeting people, interacting with people, and that sort of thing. So this guy that I dated, let's call him Corey. I met Corey through a dating app, a Christian dating app. During my junior year of college, I graduated college a semester early. So we met in December of 2020, like over this dating app. I went to church, like I attended his church for Christmas Eve service. And then we saw each other a couple times in like January, February, March of 2021. And then we officially started dating April of 2021. And I'll just start by saying that I didn't ever feel like I could be myself around him. I felt guarded. I felt like I had to mask. I felt like I had to be something that I wasn't. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that, I was just, I don't want to mess this up, what I mean? Like, I had this don't mess this up mentality. Again, I thought that I don't think I'm ever going to meet someone else. So I need to make sure that I don't do anything or say anything in this relationship that's going to drive him away. I'm like, I need to be glad that someone's actually chosen me as their girlfriend. No one else is going to ever choose me. So I have to keep this relationship, or else I'm going to be alone with my cat for the rest of my life. So that's just kind of like what I did. I felt like I had to mask. I was never myself. I never opened up and just showed my true self. Every time I went on a date with him, I will say I dreaded it. I dreaded it because I knew that I was going to have to mask. I knew that I was not going to be able to relax and be myself. So I dreaded it, and I didn't really like being with him. I also think that Corey was just as socially awkward as me, so that didn't help. Like, I feel like our social awkwardness, both of our social awkwardnesses or whatever, just didn't mix well. Like, again, I'm a very shy person, I'm a very introverted person. I'm not good with conversation, and he was just as bad and like almost as socially inadept as I was. Um, and I think that that didn't mix well. That's part of it. I don't know if he possibly could be autistic. Or the other thing is, he comes from a very like traditional Christian family. His parents homeschooled all of their kids. He was homeschooled. So it could also be like just stereotypical social awkwardness of a homeschooled person that like never interacted with like the real world, you know what I mean? So it could be either one of those things, but he was just as socially awkward. So, like, two people that are super socially awkward, that's not going to go over too well. So, I think that just in that way, he and I were not very compatible. Like, now, my boyfriend now, he's also autistic, but he's more extroverted than I am. He's not entirely like an extrovert, but like he considers himself an amnivert. He's more socially adept than me. So that kind of complements me because I'm very socially inadept. I'm very socially awkward and shy. And so we complement each other. He actually can kind of help me in social situations and make me a little bit more comfortable in social situations. So that right there is a good thing. But me and Corey, we were not compatible when it came to social stuff. You know what I mean? The other thing is just like I never felt comfortable around him, and I again don't know social cues, so I don't know when to like do certain things in relationships, if that makes sense, unless someone is like direct with me. I don't think he and I hugged or kissed once in our relationship. Um, I mean, I'm not much of a physical person unless I'm really, really close with someone, like, you know. And again, he and I didn't get very close at all, so I didn't even really feel comfortable with any touch with him or the idea of like physical affection with him. The other thing is like he and I just didn't spend a lot of time with each other. One of my biggest weaknesses, one of the things that I struggle with the most as an autistic person is reciprocity in relationships and like being able to, like the whole back and forth of a relationship, I really struggle with. I don't know when to reach out to someone. I don't know how often to reach out to them. Like I'm someone that like I depend on rules. I need rules in my life. I need a process to follow, and so I really struggle when I don't have a process to follow. It's like how often do I reach out to you? How often do I talk to you? How often do I plan things with you? I was kind of, more so dependent on him to do the, pull the weight in the relationship. So he was usually the one that was initiating dates and things like that. And I really wasn't. It wasn't that I didn't care. Well, part of it was that I didn't enjoy being around him. And it's like I'd rather spend my weekend at home by myself or with my friends that I did feel comfortable with. To another thing with friends, I mean, I tried to like invite him to do outings with my friends a little bit, but just I I didn't really want to invite him because just being around him, I shut down. I wasn't my true self. I felt like I just couldn't be myself. I felt like I had to, again, shut down. Um, and I felt like when I would invite him around my friends, like to join my friends and I on things, I feel like I wasn't myself the way that I was with my friends. I felt like I shut down more when he was present. But when, like, one time I invited him for dinner, and like when he was at my house for dinner or at my apartment, I just really wasn't myself. And then he ended up going home early because he was a couple years younger than me. And I think we were planning on going to this bar that, what I referred to as a sensory friendly bar that was downtown from my college town. Like low lighting. They didn't play loud music, but they had good drinks and stuff. So I wanted to go to this bar. We were going to go to this bar after dinner, and he was under, I was 22, like 21, 22 when we dated. He was a little bit younger. He was 19, 20. So he wasn't of age. So he couldn't have gone anyway. So he left early so that we could go. And as soon as he left, I remember just like things changing, things shifting, that I was able to kind of like open up and be myself more and let my guard down more now that he was gone. And like other things, like other, normally when you're in a serious relationship, you bring each other around each other's friends, and your friends become their friends and vice versa. And I never wanted to invite him. I was like, well, I'm going to have my friends over. I could invite him, but I really don't want to, because he's going to kind of put a damper on things if he's here. Again, like I remember when I had my birthday, I did a big birthday like weekend with my friends, and I didn't invite him. I wanted it to just be me and my friends, because he would have kind of ruined things, if we're being honest, just because I didn't feel comfortable around him. I felt like I had to mask. I felt like I couldn't be my authentic self. And so I never wanted to be around him. And again, I never initiated plans with him. Again, it had a lot to do with me not, me kind of struggling with reciprocity, me not knowing when to reach out or initiate or something. But also it had a lot to do with, I don't even really want to, it, it made it even more difficult when I knew that being around him meant masking, meant not being as comfortable. So I just never wanted to be around him. That leads me to talk about the Florida trip, which I've told this story a few times on my TikTok page. I told this story in my previous video that I posted last week. But he ended up, because I was in college, I was getting ready to graduate, and he mentioned, or he wanted to take me on a trip to Florida. And I remember when he booked the tickets, as soon as he booked everything, I was immediately dreading this whole trip. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to go on this trip. I was dreading it so much. And at first I didn't understand why that was, because I thought, I've never been to Florida. This would be fun. I should be looking forward to this. But I wasn't looking forward to it. I was dreading it. And I think part of it, one, had to do with the fact that, because what I guess prompted him to book this trip was I was posting something on Facebook, because I was in the process of looking for full-time jobs, applying and interviewing for full-time jobs after graduation. And I was just getting so exhausted and burned out. And I think I like shared something on Facebook that said something about like, I need to take a vacation or whatever. And he comments like, I'd love to join, where would you like to go? And he like, yeah. And my entire life, like the way that I was raised, my mom wasn't the best parent. She made a lot of empty promises. Like she would say a lot that she was going to do something and would never do it, or wouldn't do it until like a long time later. And so I think I was overwhelmed by the fact that here is someone actually saying that they want to do something, and then they're actually following through and doing it. Because literally I made this Facebook post, and like within a couple days we had tickets and an Airbnb booked, plane tickets. So I was overwhelmed by that. I think that was one, but also I knew that this trip meant being alone one-on-one with him for a whole week. And I just didn't want to do that. I didn't even enjoy going on dates with this person for a few hours, much less be alone with this person for an entire week with no break, staying in the same Airbnb, no break. And I didn't want to do it. I remember it got to be the day before we were supposed to leave for this Florida trip. And I realized I just don't want to do this. And I was trying to think of excuses on how to get out of this trip. At this time, this was early 2022. So COVID was still a thing. They were still like masks were still being mandated and things like that. So I at first considered maybe lying to him and telling him that I got COVID. But then I also didn't want to scare him. Like I didn't want, because if I actually had COVID, he would have had to quarantine because he would have been around me within the last 2 weeks. So he would have had to like quarantine. Probably his parents would have had to quarantine. Um, I didn't want to make a big mess about this, so I just decided, because at this time uh, there was a lot of COVID outbreaks, like COVID cases had spiked. And this was also right after holiday travel season and during the Great Resignation, when like everybody was quitting their jobs and things like that, and all these airlines were short staffed, and so there was delays and cancellations. So I was just like, you know what? I just started my first full-time job. I don't want to already take time off of work literally 2 weeks into my job and potentially have to take more unexpected time off because I could get COVID or we could get stranded. So I just told him it's not a good idea to go at this time. I didn't tell him the truth or anything. In hindsight, I should have. I should have been like, I just don't see a connection between the two of us. And I don't think going on a trip is a good idea. And honestly, I kind of don't think this relationship is right. But I didn't do that because I was just, again, I was so desperate. I was like, I don't like this person that much, but I'm willing to settle for this because I don't think there's anything else out there for me. In general, he and I just didn't really seem like a couple. We didn't seem like we were really that close, and we really weren't. I actually did take him on a trip to the Dallas area because that's where I grew up. I felt more comfortable taking him to Dallas than going to Florida with him because in Dallas I would be around friends and family that I was more comfortable around. So I felt a little bit better knowing that I would have other people to be around, instead of just completely being alone with him. So I took him on this Dallas trip because, again, at that time, I thought me and him were going to be getting married eventually. This was going to be the person that I would be marrying. So, I thought I'd like to take him, the guy that I will be marrying to my hometown so he could see my hometown and like where I grew up. So, I booked us an Airbnb in my hometown. Again, he was a Christian, like very traditional Christian guy. So he didn't believe in us like sleeping together in the same bed outside of marriage. So I got a 2-bedroom like townhouse as an Airbnb. So he and I slept in separate bedrooms. And like when we were on this trip, he and I didn't like when we weren't out doing things, when we were just chilling at our Airbnb, both of us were just in our separate bedrooms, like in our respective bedrooms with the doors closed, like watching videos on YouTube or something. We weren't hanging out or whatever, doing things together. And I mean, again, I didn't like being around him. So I liked being in my room with the door closed, and it was like my sanctuary where I could just relax and breathe and get a break from him. The other thing that I found that was kind of weird was while we were in Dallas on this trip, he had a friend, like a childhood friend, that he was in like Bible studies with as a kid, and they were now living in the Dallas area, and he decided to hit them up and meet up and see them. When he was telling me about these plans, he never told me who this person was. Like he didn't say if they were a female friend or a male friend. He didn't use any pronouns or anything. I was kind of under the impression that they were a male friend. So he decided that he was going to go out to meet up for dinner with this person. And he didn't even invite me, which I thought was weird. It's like, okay, like that shows you we were not very close, because again, like, if we were a serious couple, he would probably want to introduce me to his friends and to someone that he knew as a child. And he didn't. But, I didn't complain too much about it at the time because I ended up just having a solo date, which I love. I love spending time alone. Even when I'm in a relationship, with someone that I actually love and enjoy being around, I do like to spend time alone. So I can't complain about a solo date. Um, but I thought that was kind of weird that he didn't even invite me, didn't even ask me if I wanted to come. Um, but I later saw him tagged on Facebook with this friend, and it was a female friend. And he seemed a lot more happy around this person. Like we had a couple pictures of us together, and he just wasn't smiling as much, you know. And so, I mean, that kind of shows you that, like, just we weren't a good match for each other, you know? We weren't a good match. We weren't the right person, you know? Like, for me, I do well when I'm with the right kind of person, and for me, that he wasn't it. So I guess we'll talk about the end of the relationship. So the summer of 2022, I kind of started to notice, like towards the end of the summer of 2022, I started to kind of notice that me and him seemed to have kind of drifted apart a little bit. And I mean, we were never that close, but like what I mean by that is like he had been scheduling regularly, you know, maybe at least a couple times a month. You know, we didn't see each other that much, but you know, he had been scheduling dates with me, you know, and reaching out and planning things. He had been inviting me to do things with his family. And you know, in 2020, summer of 2022, I started to notice it's been a while since, you know, I've been to his parents' house. He still lived with his parents uh, during the most of our relationship. You know, it's been a while since we've done anything, since he's really reached out to me. I thought that was a little strange. I attribute it to him just being busy, his family being busy, because actually, again, he was living with his parents, but he ended up eventually getting his own apartment. So he had moved into an apartment. So I thought, you know, maybe he's just busy getting settled into his first apartment. His sister was also pregnant with twins. So I thought, you know, the family's probably busy with that. So I chalked it down to that. Um, the other thing that I noticed that kind of tipped me off too was that he stopped liking and commenting on posts that I made on Facebook and also on my cat's Instagram page. You know, because he had been, if I posted something, he was consistently liking and or commenting it. And I had noticed it had been a while since he had liked or commented anything on Facebook, you know, or Instagram. I thought at first maybe he just hasn't been on social media lately, but then I noticed that he was liking other people's Facebook posts, because you know, like Facebook will give you know, you'll see in your feed or whatever, such and such commented on such and such's post, such and such liked such and such's post. And I saw that he was liking other people's stuff, but he wasn't liking my stuff. Then there was this one day on Labor Day weekend where I got a notification on my phone. I was just sitting in my apartment. I got a notification that he had liked a post that I had made on my cat's Instagram page. And I got a little excited because I'm like, well, you know, it's been kind of a while since he's liked anything. I had my hopes up, you know, because again, I started to have this inkling that the relationship was winding down, coming to an end. But then I click on this notification and it's gone, meaning he must have accidentally liked the picture, like unintentionally liked it, and then unliked it immediately. And so I thought, that's not right. Like that, if he is in a relationship with me, like he wouldn't deliberately unlike something that he unintentionally liked or whatever. So I knew that something wasn't right here. The other thing that I had noticed, and when this happened, when he unliked this post, I had a thought to just click on his profile and view his bio on Instagram, because he before had the date that we started dating in his bio. And I thought, you know, I'm going to go see if it still says that. And so I clicked on it and the date was gone. And so I was like, oh, I guess this relationship is coming to an end. You know, like he's probably wanting to break up with me. I did look at his Facebook bio and I saw that the date was still in his Facebook bio. So I also kind of chalked that down to just a coincidence. I don't know. Like, because I thought, oh, he would have deleted it out of his Facebook bio as well, but he just deleted it out of his Instagram. But I kind of started to think, okay, maybe I need to do a little bit better of a job of, you know, reciprocity in this relationship. I know that this is something I struggle with, but I'm going to try to do better because I don't want to lose this relationship. Because again, it's either this or be single the rest of my life. Like, again, I wasn't trying to save the relationship because I loved this person and I wanted to be with this person. It was because I didn't think I'd find anything else. I thought this is all I'm ever going to get. So I need to save this because I don't think I'll ever get anything else again. So I decide I'm going to start planning dates with him. I'm going to start reaching out more. And so I started doing that. I reached out and asked him, like invited him to dinner once, which we ended up going to dinner. And honestly, being around him at that point was just as awkward. It was just as awkward because I kind of knew that, like, I'm sure in his head, he's probably wanting to break up with me and he's probably trying to, he already knows that the relationship is over and just is trying to find the right way and time to go about breaking up with me. And then there was this one weekend, a couple weeks after the, Instagram bio thing. So I decided to invite him to go to the local pumpkin patch because it was opening weekend. So I invited him to go. It was a Sunday. I asked him, do you want to go to the pumpkin patch? And he said, sure. We can go after I get done with church. He said that he had to volunteer with like the audio visual stuff at his church. And so as soon as he was done and he was back home and ready for me to pick him up, he would let me know. So I'm going about my day. I was a part of this like walking group where we went and walked different trails every weekend throughout the city. So I went to my walking group and I come home, I get ready, I get cleaned up, and then I get my shoes on and I grab my purse and I just go sit on my couch, kind of just in a position where, like I'm ready to get up and get going the second that I get a text message from him saying, I'm done, I'm at home, you can pick me up now. And so I'm just sitting there waiting, like probably scrolling TikTok on my phone, and I'm not hearing anything from him. I'm not getting any text messages. It gets well past whenever he would have been done with church, and like a couple hours go by at this point, and I decide to send him a follow-up message and just say, hey, I just wanted to follow up, are we still on for the pumpkin patch today? And he never replies to me. Never replies to me. I keep sitting there thinking that he's going to reply to me, and then eventually I watch it get dark outside. And so at this point, I'm like, okay, we're not going to the pumpkin patch today. And so I thought that was weird that he just completely stood me up, didn't even say anything. The other thing is the next weekend after, I actually invited him to be a +1 with me at a work thing that my job at the time was putting on. So I invited him to be my +1. And so a couple of days later, I reach out to him and I ask him, are you still good to go this weekend to my company thing? And he says yes. And then he apologizes for standing me up the other day and tells me that he was really busy at church. They asked him to stay later and volunteer later. And I was like, okay, but like, you couldn't have found 2 seconds to send me a text message to let me know. Cause like, I was kind of mad that I just sat there waiting for him, thinking he was going to reach out to me, and he never did. But again, I thought that was weird that like he didn't even bother to give me the courtesy of letting me know that we were going to be canceling the plans that we made. Yeah, and then a couple weeks later, it was my birthday, and I decided to go to dinner with him, and we went to this restaurant that had really good, damn good mac and cheese. And I will be going to Nebraska this week actually. And I hope to hit this place up because actually the last time I ate at this restaurant was on my birthday in 2022. And I kind of obviously have a negative connotation with this restaurant. So I want to go back and reclaim memories with my current boyfriend, who hopefully will be my future husband. But anyway, we went to this restaurant, and I would, I didn't know it at the time, but he would be breaking up with me 4 days later, 4 days after my birthday. So let's talk about the breakup. Let's talk about how he broke up with me. I was doing what I could to try to save the relationship by initiating more dates with him, making more plans with him. But at the same time, I knew that it was inevitable that he was going to break up with me. And I was dreading when that was going to happen, like when that awkward conversation was going to happen. The other thing is he didn't drive. I had just gotten my driver's license like 6 months earlier. So since I now had a car, I was driving us places when we had dates and stuff like that. And so I wasn't sure how that was going to work. Like if we were to break up, like would I have to drive him back home and deal with like this awkward car ride with him? I wasn't sure how the breakup was going to work because like I knew it was inevitable, but I was just kind of dreading like the awkwardness of it. You know what I mean? But actually, I'll tell the story of the day that the breakup happened. I was actually out to dinner with one of my friends. We were in downtown Lincoln at Raisin Cane's. We had Raisin Cane's for dinner. And then we went to this like Thai rolled ice cream place that was across the street. And we got rolled ice cream. And then we were walking back to my car. We were going to go to Spirit Halloween. And as we were getting back to my car, I get a text message from Corey. And basically it's the breakup text message. So yes, he breaks up with me over text, which actually I'm not going to complain about because I felt like I felt like it would have been super awkward, especially with him being just as socially awkward as me, to have a face-to-face conversation. And again, I didn't even like him that much. We weren't that close. So I don't feel like I needed the closure of a face-to-face conversation. But I was kind of in shock. I wasn't expecting this message, but it was a long message. He basically said, we seem more like friends than a couple. I don't think this relationship's going to work out. We never see each other. He said he had been thinking about this for a long time and that the relationship had become, dull in the recent months. Yeah, so he broke up with me over text. It was actually nice though that I was with one of my friends. So, again, I wasn't grieving the guy, Corey. I didn't like him that much. But I was grieving the idea of being in a relationship and, the hope that I had that like maybe I'll actually get married someday. Now I was kind of grieving the idea that now I'm going to have to go back into the dating pool, which is really hard for me. And it's probably going to be another 5 years until I'm in a relationship with someone. And then in that point, who knows if that's even going to work out. But it was actually funny to have my friend with me. We kind of like were able to get our minds off of things when we were like at Spirit Halloween and hanging out and stuff. So yeah, that's how he broke up with me. I hope you guys enjoyed my story time of my previous relationship as an autistic person. And I hope that this made you feel less alone if you've ever been like me and you've struggled with just interacting with people, and how that's made things like dating and any kind of relationships really hard for you. But yeah, have you ever been in an unfulfilling relationship because you felt just so desperate? Let me know in the comments, because you're not alone in that. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.